Will Bruce and Damian be able to unmask the Memento killer before they strike again? But more importantly, will their partnership as the dynamic duo be able to survive the night? Well, let's hop into the pages of Batman and Robin issue number 19 and find out together, shall we? So then, as you'll recall, at the end of the previous issue, Batman and Robin had themselves a major falling out. Damian swore that he would solve this Memento case on his own, before eventually quit being Robin full-time to follow his new passion in the world of medicine. Well, you'll be shocked to discover that this newest issue starts like none of that actually ever happened. Batman and Robin are out on the streets working a shots fired case. And for once, Batman is actually letting his son take the lead on the investigation. Damian goes over all the clues he's managed to amass on the Memento killings, and he thinks he knows where the culprit is going to strike next. In fact, I actually have to give Philip Kennedy Johnson some credit here, because when Damian goes over his clues, he actually makes several very interesting deep-cut references to other major crimes and tragedies from Gotham's past, including Dr. Hellfern, aka the original Dr. Death, as well as the Progenitor Club, which was first introduced back during the original Joker's Favor story. Of course, none of these are actually where the Boy Wonder thinks that the Memento killer will strike next. Damian has figured out that Memento works on an 8 to 18 year cycle, only striking at places wherein there seems to be some sort of major class divide, and that these horrible tragedies were at the time believed to all be accidents. With that in mind, Robin would bet his reputation that Memento will next strike at the Vauxhall Opera House, also just sometimes known as the Gotham Opera House. Batman actually congratulates his son for a job well done, saying that that's all very astute reasoning, and actually sends Robin ahead so that he can have a private conversation with Oracle. All he asks of his son, though, is that if he does actually end up coming face to face with Memento, he'll wait for Batman to back him up. That is a nice bit of development for Batman's character, though Bruce still isn't being honest with Damian that he's still feeling the effects of Gravesdigger's Poppy and tripping the hell out every couple seconds, as grim specters from Gotham's past say such cryptic things as "the devil wears his face," whatever the hell that means. Now, what did Oracle want to tell Batman? Well, it seems that his suspicions into Dr. Bashir weren't exactly as paranoid and unfounded as everyone else believed. It turns out that Dr. Bashir actually did do some business with individuals who had ties to Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. Now, that's not 100% a smoking gun. Ra's was around for a long time and had his fingers in a lot of pies, both legal and illegal. But still, Batman fears that this is all way too convenient. Dr. Bashir shows up in the city right around the same time as Memento, right around the time his own relationship with his son starts to fall apart. Maybe Bashir secretly is Memento, or maybe it's much more simple than that. Maybe Bashir is just working for Talia and the League to try and turn Damian against his father once more. Speaking of Damian, he continues to keep up a good professional relationship with Detective Catherine. Currently, her and Gordon are trying to question Jonathan Crane, who's come out of his coma. While Scarecrow can't offer up any direct leads, he does end up talking a bunch of creepy gibberish that seeks to imply that he maybe actually had a meeting with Dr. Bly, Detective Catherine and Bruce's Scotland Yard mentor, before his death. That is, of course, assuming he actually is dead. It's because of that Catherine decides to ring up the asylum, where Dr. Bly spent his final days, to make sure that he's still buried on the asylum grounds. Now, back at Wayne Manor, Bruce does something pretty uncharacteristic for how he's been written in this series, and that is he actively tries to talk to his son for a change. Wow, a novel concept, I know. He says that they should go out to eat for a change, you know, like a regular father and son, just be normal for a little bit. I mean, they'll have to train twice as hard to work off the calorie difference. But Bruce just wants his son to know how much he cares, how he truly feels. In fact, we get to hear him kind of reinvoke what he said in the last issue to Red Hood, about how deep down what he really fears is that if Damian gives up being Robin, he will in turn end up giving up being his son, and that Bruce could never do that, and that he would never want to lose him. To Damian's credit, though, he actually ends up turning this conversation on his father in a major way by saying, hey, you kept all the other Robins close, and you still ended up losing them in one way or another, which is one of the most ice-cold clapbacks ever. I would actually be a little mad at Damian for how callous that was, but then a couple seconds later you realize Bruce isn't actually being open and genuine right now, he's just pretending to be so he can put a tracer on his son and eavesdrop on his conversation with Dr. Bashir later that night. Wow, what an absolute dick move. I love you, son, I trust you, I don't want to lose you. No, actually, I'm just trying to butter you up so I can put a tracer on you. In fact, Oracle even goes a step further by saying, geez, Batman, spying on children is kind of becoming an uncomfortable trend for you, obviously making reference to what's going on in the Detective Comics book right now, which is even weirder because in that book, Bruce and Damian have a great relationship. Now, that night at the hospital, Dr. Bashir decides to take Damian through the hospice wing. He says that one of the most important lessons that Dr. Thomas ever taught him was to show extra care and respect for the dying, those who truly needed it. And it's a lesson he hopes he can pass on to Damian. It's during this conversation, which is admittedly pretty sweet and pretty genuine, Damian ends up finding the listening device that his dad put on him. This means that Batman's spy operation ends up going dark just as Damian and Bashir enter the basement against their will. It's there Memento is actively already waiting for them. Memento slashes at Bashir, seemingly killing him. I guess that rules him out as a suspect, huh? Also, in a cruel twist of irony, Batman's great fear came to pass anyway as Damian is forced to come face to face with Memento without his father. A terrified Batman attempts to reach his son in record time by utilizing something called the Valkyrie Protocol, which is basically just a fancy schmancy way of saying he slingshots himself across the city. At speed so high and inhuman it probably would have killed a regular person, but this is Batman we're dealing with after all. Though sadly even that proves to not be enough because by the time Batman gets there, Memento and Robin are gone. He once again has another terrifying vision, this time of Dr. Blythe. Again, reiterating that cryptic piece of dialogue from before. He wears the devil's face, he wears Nicodemus Crow's face, and now he has your son. And it's on that note right there the comic comes to a close, everybody, and so that was Batman and Robin issue number 19, and once again, this is a book that I am both fascinated by, even though I don't totally enjoy reading it month to month. This issue is particularly bedeviling too because it essentially reveals to me that, yeah, Philip Kennedy Johnson can actually write a loving, supporting Batman and Robin relationship, it's just he chooses not to. His Batman can be supportive to his son Damian, he can say and do all the right things, but only when he's actively trying to deceive him. And I mean, yeah, you could argue that this is actually a valid take on Bruce as a character, that he does have a hard time dealing with loss, that he does have a hard time letting go, that he is paranoid and he does act out, and he would act like this when his son was growing and changing and maybe wanting to move away from him. The problem is that he has all those feelings, and he also acts like a jerk on top of it. Not that Damian is much of a prize either, he truly is his father's son, and he ends up acting like a jerk plenty throughout this series too. Again, maybe that's the point Philip Kennedy Johnson is trying to get across. If so, good job, mission accomplished, I'm just not having a fun time reading any of it. And then even after we deal with that hurdle, there's the whole issue with Nicodemus Crow / the Memento Killer / whatever you want to call him at this point. We're basically a whole story arc in now, and the mystery continues to be prolonged and dragged out. I feel like no matter who they ultimately reveal the Memento Killer to be, it's not gonna be satisfying. Either Blythe didn't actually die, in which case, well, that's a little disappointing. Either this is Catherine trying to get revenge, which is also kind of annoying and something you could see a mile away. Maybe it somehow is still Dr. Bashir and this was all one giant fake out, or maybe it is an actual real ghost too, who can say for sure. Overall, though, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this issue a 6 out of 10. Again, it's not great, it's not the worst, and it is at least interesting enough that I keep coming back to it because I desperately want to see how it all plays out.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time, bye bye.